What's up, guys? Robin Lundberg Show here with you early today. Just because I need an outlet to keep from going crazy. I don't know if I should even be doing a show, to be real with you, in this current state of affairs that I am immersed in. The situation at SI, Google it if you haven't seen or read up on it. But, the kind of thing that eventually somebody will write a book or do a documentary about. There's only so much I can say, but I haven't been able to do the kind of things that I normally would do. And I've got a bunch of stuff I got to do later on a personal level. So I did want to get a show going and I had the time. So I am here to do it because, as I've said, this is a bit of a therapy for me at times, therapeutic outlet for me. Like I might, I probably should be taking a hiatus or a sabbatical because I'm going insane. But nonetheless, I am here today. Berkey711 says, we appreciate it, Robin. I appreciate you guys being with me. And I wanted to start with the Caitlin Clark news from today. First, there was this big three proposition that's come from Ice Cube, where Ice Cube has apparently invited Caitlin Clark to be in the big three. And as part of that, the offer is $5 million for her to go to the big three, to play a handful of games, essentially. I think 8 to 10 games is basically the offer for her to go to the big three. And here, I'll share the screenshot of one of the tweets that sums it up for you right there. The Big Three has offered Caitlin Clark $5 million. Ice Cube says America's women athletes should not be forced to spend their off seasons playing in often dismal and dubious foreign countries just to make ends meet. All right. Well, look, I like this idea from Ice Cube quite a bit. I like the idea quite a bit. I mean, if you want to get buzz around the Big Three, if Caitlin wants to get buzz around her name, that would actually work. And it's a fair offer. I mean, more than a fair offer, it's a good offer. That's a lot of money for not a lot of work. The issue I have, and I've talked to Cube about the Big Three basically on an annual basis since he launched it. The issue that I have is he's making it seem like he's the savior for women's basketball. Making it seem like, he's coming in to save the day when this offer was only extended to Caitlin Clark. Maybe he'd expand it from there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he wouldn't, and I'm not questioning his motives or anything like that. But this is more the power of Caitlin Clark than the power of the Big Three. He's trying to get her juice to his league. As I've tweeted and I put in my short little video, Big Three, it's just big me, Caitlin Clark could say to that. And I do think people are underestimating the amount of money. What's up, Kevin? The amount of money that Caitlin Clark is going to be able to generate for herself. I mean, we've already seen it. She is a huge star. She might be, at this very moment in time, the biggest needle mover in all of sports. Because she's fresh, she's new, in a sense. But what happens with that is, eventually, the backlash comes into play. Eventually, people start to turn on you. And we've seen that with almost every single athlete who has reached a stature like Caitlin Clark is ascending to. And it's already started. If you noticed, after that game, her dad told her to just play basketball or whatever. But there were some people saying she's doing too much. She's running her mouth too much. She's showing people up on the court too much. Those kind of things have started to come out. In fact, there was a broadcaster last night, I think it was on the Celtics game, who came out and said, somebody was complaining for a call. And here, let me play it for you right now. Somebody was complaining for a call, and he said, well, who are you, Caitlin Clark, to do that? Here's the highlight from that.
Boy, Jason Tatum does a lot of complaining. Who does he think he is, Caitlin Clark?
So there you go. It's already started, right? Once they say that, Caitlin Clark complaining out on the court. And think about all the people we've seen the fans turn on or people turn on. And really, it's a backlash to overexposure oftentimes because somebody gets shoved down your throat so much. They're like, I want to see him. And there probably already are a lot of people who are like, I'm sick of hearing about Caitlin Clark. I hope she loses. What are they playing? Colorado next? I hope she loses. Her and Iowa lose to Colorado. You're probably getting a lot of that already because all this is up and out there. And people are talking about Caitlin Clark on a day-to-day basis all the time, nonstop. But think about it. Like, remember when Brock Purdy was a cute little story and Mr. Irrelevant? Brock Purdy, cute little story, Mr. Irrelevant. All of a sudden it became, this guy's an overrated game manager. I'm sick of Brock Purdy. I mean, even Patrick Mahomes got it some last year when he had that little fit throw on the sideline. Have the Chiefs become unlikable? I'm sick of the Chiefs and Taylor Swift. Obviously, LeBron James, I mean, part of that was when he went to Miami, I think really started it. But I think part of it, too, is LeBron was really the test subject for social media and the 24/7 news cycle, where people were in there all the time, inundated with LeBron, and it became a cottage industry to talk about LeBron James on a day-to-day basis, where people are saying, you know, he's a choker, he's never going to be Michael Jordan, all this and that and this and the third every day, and it still goes on to this day, still going on now. So LeBron is another good example of that happening. It really just happens every time there's one of these new phenomena that people get obsessed with and talk about ad nauseum, and then fans don't want to hear about it anymore. I mean, South Park did a really good episode about that, where it was basically a harvest. The fans would build somebody up to harvest them. It was with Britney Spears at the time, and then I think it was Miley Cyrus. Hannah Montana was the next one as they got to the end of the episode. But, you know, with Caitlin Clark and all this buzz and what she's doing, it started with Jay Williams. Hell, when he said she's not the greatest because she hasn't won a championship, as if we've ever thought about college players in those terms. I don't remember anybody ever bringing up somebody's college championships in a debate on how good they are. In fact, it works the opposite way, right? Like Carmelo Anthony won a college championship. Nobody counts that when they call him a loser. Not that Carmelo's a loser, but you know what? That was a label that Carmelo wasn't, let's put it the other way, wasn't a winner at the NBA level. No one was like, but he won at Syracuse. College great. Right? I mean, there's a lot of people that won at college and didn't do ish in the NBA. And nobody blames Steph Curry for not winning at Davidson. He was a phenomenon at Davidson. Nobody expected him to win. Nobody blames Tim Duncan for not winning at Wake Forest. So that was the start of like the hating on Caitlin Clark a little bit, acting as if that's been the measuring stick, when really that was just, in a sense, backlash to Caitlin Clark's superstardom. Backlash to the discussion, the love, the coverage that Caitlin Clark has gotten. And you started to see the tides turn just a little bit this tournament. Wait till she gets into the W. Wait till she misses a few shots. I think she's actually struggling right now. Wait till she has an extended period of struggle. She was overrated. She was never as good as everybody said she was going to be. But as far as the big three offer, what do you think? Should she take it? I think people are underselling just how much money Caitlin Clark is going to be capable of generating off the court. I mean, look, there was already the NIL stuff in place in college basketball where she's made some good money. When she gets to the pros, who's not going to want to put her in commercials? You don't think she's going to be able to sell sneakers? Because I do. Like I said, I buy some for my daughter and maybe myself. mean, she is I've done a couple of shows about this. She's a generational star. That's why you see an offer like Ice Cube made for her to go to the big three. And he says, it's women shouldn't have to go play overseas and do all this in the offseason. Then where were the offers for the other WNBA ladies? Why is it only the one who's generated the most hype and the most famous and all those things? It's Caitlin Clark. With great power comes great responsibility, as somebody once said. I think his name was Uncle Ben. Shame what happened to him. Anyway, Robin Lundberg Show here with you live in the afternoon, earlier than normal. But I'm sorry, guys. I'll explain it a little bit more now that I'm not right off the top of the show, because in case somebody was tuning in right off the top of the show. So more or less, everybody knows that the company Minute Media acquired well, everybody doesn't know. If you don't know, a company called Minute Media acquired the license to operate Sports Illustrated from the previous operator, Arena Group. Most of the SI staff are Arena Group employees, and we're unable to get into, or do any work for the last however many days. There's other stuff going on behind the scenes too. Don't get me wrong, but when you're used to working on a day-to-day basis and creating content on a day-to-day basis, it's a little weird when you're not doing it. And now we're doing it in a certain sense now, but it's a little different. I'll explain that later when I feel more comfortable talking about it. But more or less, when I first started doing this show, I'm doing it at night because of the day job. Now I'm in the afternoon, done with what would be a work day anyway for the most part. But I honestly needed something to focus my thoughts on, my energy on, because when this thing can get left to its own devices, there can be some issues. So as I told you guys on last night's show, sometimes there's a little bit of therapy for me. So here I am doing this right now. Kevin says she should take it. Nothing better than a big bag for minimal work. Well, yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. She's also trying to prop up the WNBA at the same time, right? Like her going into the WNBA is a big deal for that league. It's not as if that's a small thing. It's not as if, her going to the WNBA is a little deal that's not going to be the most covered thing that's ever happened for that league. And the WNBA is already on the come up, right? Like, it's not like the WNBA isn't doing well. It's doing very, very well. It's doing very, very well and progressing in the right fashion. And I go back to that moment at the All-Star game because I think it's worth noting what happened with Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Curry. I thought was a legitimately cool thing. It's a legitimately cool thing that people should appreciate and I think could be inspiring for many. Like, I don't think that's the kind of thing that is here today, gone tomorrow. I do believe that that's the kind of thing that lasts. That's the kind of thing that will stick with people. And little girls could be inspired by what Sabrina did there. And little boys could be inspired to see Sabrina and what she did next to Steph. So with the WNBA and an incoming boom for that league, I don't know if it behooves her or them to have her do something that looks kind of like a sideshow. No disrespect to the big three, but this hasn't happened before. And in the big three, it's usually it is NBA players who are finished with their careers, not in the midst of their careers. So from a monetary standpoint, it makes sense in the short term, but I think she's going to make that money, plenty of it, in the long term. So I don't know if she needs to focus on it in that sense when she is the person who's going to grow the game more than anyone else. I mean, Caitlin Clark is the Michael Jordan of women's basketball. And I say that, as a guy who thinks LeBron is better than Jordan, I say the Michael Jordan of women's basketball because she's a transformative figure in the culture, which Michael Jordan was. So I don't know necessarily if Caitlin Clark should take the deal. I think it's an interesting deal. It's a good offer by Ice Cube It's a smart offer by Ice Cube. But I think, we're getting to that point, like I said, where people were ready to jump on Caitlin Clark. And there's going to be even more people as this stuff gets put in their feed. I mean, I had somebody on Facebook say something, take a shot at the women, which is less and less, by the way. You see less and less of people diminishing women's basketball and women's hoops, which is really cool. It's really cool to see the growth of that sport, the growth of the game. I mean, as a hoops head, you like basketball no matter who's playing it, right? And I look, I don't think women can play in the WNBA or in the NBA, for instance, in the sense of from a physical standpoint difference, but from a skill standpoint, ladies are nice. We saw it with Sabrina. And relative to who she's played against, Caitlin Clark is the best I've ever seen. And there's a reason. The hype is real. It didn't come from nowhere. People aren't making it up. People ain't making it up. What time is it? Damn it. I have to put down the scalpel. LOL. Yeah, Ernesto, you were in there. You were performing surgery. You were cutting somebody open. Getting ready. What do you do, Ernesto? I'm curious. I'm sure we've talked about this in the past. If you're at liberty to share. And any of you guys who are in the chat, let me know. Let me know what you're up to during the day, because you're keeping me company right now. That's for sure. You're keeping me sane, is what I was saying. I don't even know if I should be doing shows right now. Maybe should be on a hiatus. But with everything, the hysteria that I am in the midst of, we're all in the "this is fine" meme. It's basically that we're in the "this is fine" meme constantly. But hey, it's fine. It's all gonna be fine. It's all gonna be fine. Yeah, that's what I got on Caitlin Clark. That's what I got on Caitlin Clark. Anyhow, I did see this too. Luka calling Kyrie Batman. I feel like that's being a good teammate. It's playing to Kyrie's ego in a sense. And here's the thing about Kyrie Irving. As a Nets fan, I have always said that Kyrie Irving is bad. He is nice. He is incredibly skilled. And there are moments where Kyrie does something and you wonder, has there ever been a better basketball player than him? When just like ability-wise, is he the best basketball player I've ever seen in my life? Like, you have those moments with Kyrie Irving. And more than once, his ability to score and get where he wants in tight places is unlike anyone I've ever seen. I kind of think of Kyrie as Wolverine. He can get those tight jobs done, though it can be a little temperamental at times. I don't know if temperamental is the right word or whatever. But you get what I'm saying. And Kyrie thus far, it's been going good for him in Dallas. We'll see, if there's something behind door number 2. There always has been in his career. But I'll never front on Kyrie's abilities. Now, with that said, the Mavericks are just a game up on the play-in. It's not like they're running roughshod over the league. But it is a good fit, in a sense, between he and Luka, just like it was a good fit between he and LeBron. Because Luka dominates the ball. LeBron dominated the ball. Kyrie's actually more of a shooting guard. He plays off ball very well because he's not really a point guard in the sense he's in a point guard's body, but he's a scorer. Kyrie's a scorer. So if those other guys are drawing attention and the ball's tossed off to Kyrie, he's going to get his. There's no question about that. He's going to get his. And he's done that. He's done that throughout his career. Now, his availability is a question. His eccentric nature is a question. But his skill level has never been in question. Ernesto says he's a retired truck driver, now a locksmith, safe salesman, and installer. You know, sometimes I wish I had learned a trade, if I'm being real with you. Go back, learn a trade, make a living, leave work at work, never take it home, and then retire and collect a pension. Um, not a bad walk of life. I'll tell you that much. So congratulations for everybody who's successfully doing that. You know, I think I formed a bond with a lot of and it's fair to call blue collar workers. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but when I was doing such an early morning radio show, the listenership is generally doing jobs like that. A lot of them. It was cool to get to know and talk to so many people in different walks of life like that. Kevin says, I teach preschool kids. They ask me who is the guy on the phone. You know what's funny is when my kids say, Daddy, you are on my iPad or something like that. Daddy, you're on my iPad. Yeah, that's probably because I was sneaking up and trying to boost the views and the numbers on their iPad. But, Bill L says, dang, so early. Hey, you're in here. You guys are in here. Oh, Cody Rhodes it. So, what do you want to talk about? I got like another half hour before I got to bounce and pick up my daughter from something. So I got to run around. I told you guys, some of the stuff that was going on personally yesterday that we're dealing with here. So between what's going on professionally and what's going on personally, just been a lot of stress, and this was an outlet for me, and I didn't know when I was going to get to it later. So I'm just like, let's just go, get it off your chest. You guys will adjust. Like I said, I've always said this show and channel is going to adapt a little bit and evolve a little bit over time. And I had something to talk about. I thought the Caitlin Clark Big Three thing was interesting. Hopefully you guys do too. But yeah, anything you guys want to talk about, hit me up in the comments. Bill says, dialysis machine tech at the hospital, just chilling while running through testing. Let me ask you something. So I look at these itemized hospital bills because unfortunately we have too many bills coming from the hospital. And this drives me crazy. Now insurance covers most of this stuff, but how do they get away with charging as much as they charge for some of these things? Like you already have the machine, right? Like an MRI, like how is an MRI so expensive? The machine's already there. You can't tell me it costs $20,000 to turn it on. Right? Like that's I don't it's all a racket. It's crazy. The health industry, and not anybody who works in it. I know you guys build this is not obviously a shot at you. And I know there are a lot of people working really hard to help people there and round the clock to help people there. But it is nuts to me how that works and how they take advantage of people. And they, not like the people who are working, but the big corporations as usual, right? He says no idea about the dollar side. Kevin Zwicker says, did you listen to sports radio growing up, or is it something you decided to do? All right, good question. So I would say I heard some of it. I was not an avid sports talk radio listener growing up. I wasn't avid, but my dad, funny enough, this is when we were in Maryland. He did listen to Mike and the Mad Dog when we were in Maryland. He listened to Mike and the Mad Dog. And obviously, like, Mike and the Mad Dog was a New York show, WFAN, but WFAN's signal was mad strong. So my dad would listen to that. And I would hear that for sure. And one thing, no shot at those guys, because I'm actually I'm on Mad Dog Radio this Sunday, Easter Sunday, 8 a.m. to noon, I believe. I'll be on Mad Dog Radio this Sunday. But I remember thinking to myself about sports talk radio at that point in time as a sports fan, hey, this is boring. How do I make it not boring? That was my thought later when I actually got into it. I can't tell you that my plan was to get into radio. Really, I think my biggest inspiration was probably SportsCenter back in the day when that felt like the coolest thing in the world. I don't know if you guys remember that, basically you're talking Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann and Kenny Mayne and Stuart Scott and Craig Kilborn and stuff like that. That was the era of SportsCenter that I'm referring to. And those guys felt super cool. And I knew I wanted to do something like that. I can't tell you exactly what, but something like that. So when I went to University of Maryland, I went to University of Maryland for a few reasons. One, it was a state school, so it was cheaper. Two, they had a great journalism program. And three, they had big sports teams. And I figured that checked off all the boxes I need to check off. And really, my plan was just to make it one way or the other. And I remember them telling us at the time, you had to go to a small market before you went to a big market. And I was like, nah, I'm going to go around that. I'm going to circumvent it. And I was lucky to move up the student radio station. I wouldn't say I was lucky to move up I worked to move up the student radio station. I was lucky to get the internship at Around the Horn, which led to my first job up in the city. I've told this story before. But then I was in New York, and after my first TV job, I was in between jobs for a minute, waiting tables, bartending, unemployment, before I got in on the radio because Max was over there. He brought me in the door, but I think I was working off the books, to be honest with you, at the beginning, and then making $14 an hour for a minute as a producer. But I knew I wanted to get on air. So I constantly created vehicles to get myself on air. One being Max's show until I would get kicked off the air. Another being, I did this bit, if you remember, it was called Around the Herd. I did it with Colin Cowherd every day. We'd shot, and I created that just as a mechanism to get myself on the air. And then I did the same thing with Ruco's show, because when it first started, Ruco's show was just his show at 5 a.m. And a new GM had come in at the time, who's a bigwig at ESPN now, was my biggest supporter almost all the time, except for twice when he just like totally flipped on me. He liked the way that sounded, and that's what led to the partnership with Ruco, which is when I really thought I made it, seeing myself on a billboard and everything like that. But it is what it is. And I'm here now still dealing with the ruthless media industry. As, check Jimmy Traina's tweet from earlier today, and then the quote tweet on top of that, and maybe you'll get, a little bit more background on exactly what's going on. I guess I could just tell you the timeline, but it's exhausting. I gotta admit, it is exhausting. that entire timeline. Then the other NBA story was the Lakers winning without LeBron last night. And sure enough, we're so agenda-based where I don't think anybody's been stupid enough to say that the Lakers are better without LeBron. But I'm sure Skip Bayless said something to that effect already. And, all that is, it shows you how quickly people have these agendas where they're looking for something like that. LeBron's back tonight, I believe. The Lakers have a few good players at the top. Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is never going to be what people thought Anthony Davis was going to be, but it don't mean he ain't good. He's a damn good player. Austin Reeves is looking good. He looked good over the summer for USA basketball too. They just need those guys to be in a real. I wouldn't want to see the Lakers in a short series. I'll put it that way. That's the thing that favors them, is they can get you in a series, and then they've got that LeBron James guy. With retired athletes getting into media, YouTube creators doing free media content, what do you think is going to happen to the new generation of people going through the college route? I would say now more than ever, start your own thing and do it. And I think there are more avenues now in a weird way because of that. Like, for instance, you could do a day job and make content. And then the content, if you work hard enough at it, could eventually be supplementary income or become your full-time gig. I mean, there's going to be new media outlets. The business is fractured. There are more media outlets out there now than there were before. Like when I was growing up, I was thinking like ESPN. That's it, right? Then when I worked at ESPN, I'm not at ESPN. Is there anything else but ESPN? But there was Fox Sports at the time. I worked for Fox Sports. But nowadays, like even the Levitard started Meadowlark, and there's all sorts of things out there. You've got the DraftKings and FanDuel have their own production, the sports gambling industry. So it's impossible to tell people exactly what to do because, being real, like when I went to college got me into the student radio, which I wouldn't have done otherwise. And college, because I was in the student radio, got me the internship with Around the Horn. Other than that, it's not like I would say, and this is no disrespect to any of my professors or the school. I love the school, all that stuff. But I wouldn't say college is what put me in the position other than those things. The rest of it was like socializing and having fun. I mean, I don't even remember classes, to be honest with you. I was always good in school. That's the other thing. I'm allergic to procrastinating, so I was never behind. And I remember laughing at people when they're up all night studying for finals. I'm like, I'm not doing that. It wasn't until my junior and senior years where my grades fell off a little bit. But when I say fell off a little bit, like they're still over 3.0. That's falling off for me. I'm not trying to brag. It's just I was always good at school. I think my first 2 semesters 4.0. But I would say it's tough. I would never lie. I tell this to kids whenever they ask me all the time. It's tough. If you don't have a natural in, like somebody you know or a relative or your dad, there's a lot of nepotism in the business. You got to be prepared to work and take it on the chin and get up. Shit. I've gotten knocked down and gotten back up so many times. This is me getting back up right now. So it ain't easy. I would say I would never tell anybody not to chase their dream, because if it's your dream, you should chase it. There's more ways to be self-sufficient now than there's ever been before. There's more outlets than there's ever been before. The industry will evolve. It will adapt. It will survive because content is something that people crave, and good content cuts through. But if it ain't like what you really, really want, then you should think about something else. Like I said, I just was like yearning for, maybe I should have gone to a trade school and been, or whatever. And that's the thing about me though. Like and maybe this helped me have a connection with the audience in some ways, where I never thought of myself as like, because I do what I do, I'm better or smarter or whatnot. In fact, I even was always more comfortable on the production side of the radio studio. If you ever been in a radio studio, you always hear people say the other side of the glass. I was always more comfortable on the side with the staff and like the producers than I was on the talent side. Just, I don't know, some of the talent, and I'm not taking shots at them, but they would just go sit in there and never go to the other side. I would go to the other side. Even when I was talent, when I had become talent, I would stay on the producer side and then just go in when the show started. And even generally in breaks, bounce back to the other side in breaks, because I like the camaraderie, and I related to those guys more than some of the other, who you would say were my peers, if you will. Keep the comments coming in. Please like, subscribe, share the channel. Early show for you today. I think the sports journalism career has always been taken over by, retired athletes always get thrown into the analysis chair. It's not been, I can't think of a time where they weren't thrown into the analysis chair. And for good, like, it's not like it's a bad reason. They have firsthand experience. You get it. I'm not being I'm not being silly or stupid about that. That just is what it is. That just is what it is. But, the business is rough. I won't lie to you about that. Business is rough. No question. And it's in a transitional phase too. Because when I was coming up, I mean, when I was doing Around the Horn, they when I was doing Around the Horn, I'll get to that one in a second. Did you ask if it was a Heineken? No. I don't drink alcohol, guys. It's a Polar Seltzer. Once again. When I was doing Around the Horn, we didn't even have the internet, I don't think. Or we had it, but it wasn't. We did have it, but not the way we have it now, not on our phones and stuff like that. And you had to watch it on TV. You didn't watch the clips digitally. You had to watch it on TV, and you were still newspapers. So the cable subscription model and the print subscription models still work, and that's all been thrown into upheaval because people haven't figured out how to monetize the digital side in the same way. A crazy story about somebody recognizing me in public. I don't know about crazy. I mean, I get recognized in public sometimes. I used to always get recognized by cab drivers all the time by my voice. When I would be in a cab, I would say something, and they'd be like, "Are you Robin Lum?" You know, because they had heard me so many times. I have had people come up to me and say, "Big fan," you know, that kind of thing. I'm trying to think of I've been at I was at a Indian party, like a Bollywood kind of party with my wife once. And one of the people there was like once he figured out who I was, all excited, like stuff like that. But I'm also not that big a celebrity. I'm like an F plus. I'll give myself an F plus. D minus, F plus. Is that even being too nice for my celebrity status? Yeah. Oh wow. I was going to talk about this in a second. Let me throw this up now because I was going to talk about Beyonce covering Jolene, but apparently she's going to be covering Blackbird by the Beatles as well. That is going to be fire. She's going to kill that. That's going to be fire. Yeah, she's going to kill that. I mean, Jolene is such a banger. I mean, it's one of the, well, I guess Jolene's not a banger, but it's a great song, right? So I know her and I think Dolly Parton's actually featured on the album. So I don't know if she'll be featured on that track per se, or will intro it or sing along with Beyonce. But that Beatles cover sounds dope as hell too. And it's funny, we go from yesterday where because Diddy and Jay-Z have been in the same room, it's like Beyonce and Jay-Z are next. And now like Beyonce's going to drop her album and everybody's going to be dancing to that or singing that or whatnot. I mean, that Texas Hold'em joint goes hard. Got to admit that goes hard. But I'm excited about her covering the Beatles. And I'm excited to see how this album gets covered and discussed over time. Right? Because it's it's in a different genre in a sense, and it'll be hilarious if this is what wins her the Grammy. That was my initial thought process about it. If it's the country music album that wins Beyonce the Grammy, but nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds and how that is covered. And then the last thing I had on the rundown, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but the latest reports say that Stone Cold Steve Austin could be at WrestleMania, or that the WWE has made overtures to get Stone Cold Steve Austin to WrestleMania, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I mean, we saw that truck shot of Stone Cold and John Cena outside of the Rock beatdown of Cody Rhodes. And here's, it's from PW Insider, I guess. It would be such a moment if The Rock is beating up on Cody in Bloodline Rules and you hear, people are gonna, but I'm in for the chaos. Sign me up for as much chaos as possible. as much mayhem as possible in that match. I'm excited to see how that could go, how that could unfold. WrestleMania Endgame. We're really just about a week away. We're really just about a week away from what could be the stone coldest WrestleMania of all time. Brought to you by Polar Seltzer, as I said. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me, as always. Like I said, it's a crazy time in the industry, a specifically crazy time for us at Sports Illustrated or whatever company we work at. It's a crazy time, and I was going crazy. I was legit about to go crazy, so I figured I'd fire up this machine and go now, because I feel like if I go later, if I was gonna go later, I'd be all beat down and like, oh, I don't want. Like, at least this, like, it lets me get some stuff off my chest, or even just talk, you know. That always helps. Interacting with people always helps. We should rank wrestling entrances, theme plus walk. All right, wrestling entrances. Undertaker's up there. I think Roman Reigns is up there. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Cena. This new Rock. That new Rock entrance is fire. Those are the best ones. Well, Y2J, when he came over to WWE, that was also that it doesn't matter what your name is, which was the first time I had heard that. WrestleMania 40 is the 25th anniversary of the first time Rock versus Austin main evented in Philly. It's only right he stunners Rock one last time in the Night 2 main event. That would be great. Like, imagine if Cena and Stone Cold come out to upend the Rock to help Cody go over Roman and dethrone Roman. That would be the wildest things ever. And I could see it happening for sure. But it's going to be a fun night. It's going to be a fun. Look, it's only a week away. I'm hoping for some good news between then and now on multiple fronts, but definitely going to be an exciting WrestleMania regardless. My son and I, we've got our whole little trip planned out now, ready to rock and roll, and ready to get going. All right, like and subscribe to the channel. Send the comments in. Please share. Comment later. I will get back to it. I do get back to the comments. But I started the show with Caitlin Clark. In case anybody missed it, that was the impetus for going on the Big 3 offer that she got. I don't think she's going to take it. I mean, it's a good idea by Ice Cube. I'll give him credit for the idea. I don't think she's going to take it. I do think she's going to make a lot of money aside from her WNBA check. But I also think she has to be prepared for the backlash that is eventually coming her way, or will be coming her way, because that's what happens when you reach that superstar status. It happens to everybody. You know, we build you up and tear you down. And you already see it happening. You already see people saying, I wish they would lose so I don't have to hear about her anymore. Or she's doing too much on the court. Or she's complaining too much on the court. But she's also still the draw. I mean, I saw Iowa's ratings for the other day. Iowa and LSU would just do bananas numbers if they could get that matchup. That'd be in the Elite Eight, I think. That would almost be bigger than the championship. But I think the Iowa game got at least 3 million viewers over the weekend. The most viewed first round game in NCAA women's tournament history. That's the number as it's being presented here. If you could see, boom. Iowa's 91-65 win over Holy Cross on Saturday averaged 3.23 million viewers on ABC, making it the most watched first-round game in women's NCAA tournament history. So there you have it. Yes, Bill, you're right. Dark Knight. I always say there's a Jay-Z line for everything, and we're talking about Jay-Z, like people trying to bring him down without any actual link. But what does he say on So Appalled? I mean, he just quotes the movie, but Dark Knight feeling, either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. He kills that verse, by the way. Because unlike Hammer, 30 million can't hurt me. I don't even care about the money part of it. It's just the delivery. That was ill. I don't, Pusha T tried to say he got Jay-Z on Drug Dealers Anonymous too. No, he killed that one too. That's for the koi fish. What a verse that is. This Diddy story is nuts, man. I don't even know how to cover it or talk about it because it's such a sensitive subject, and there's so many people that have been in his nucleus or around him, including Hove. But everybody, you forget how massive Diddy was and how big he was in the industry. So for him to be caught up in something of this depth, I mean, there's a lot of people who have been in contact or worked with Diddy or been at parties with Diddy. You can't just say everybody that has been around Diddy or near him is guilty. But clearly there's something going on here with him. And I've read some of the court docs. I've seen some of the speculation. Obviously, I've seen the videos of Justin Bieber and all that. But I try to be, I'm not a shock jock in the sense where I'm just going to run my mouth about something that significant and that sensitive without all the information to be had, I guess, is what I'm saying. Take that. No way out for Diddy. I've been around the world. That's what I was thinking when I saw the stuff about the jet. I don't even know if he actually got out of the country or not. But Diddy, I mean, I saw that his drug mule was arrested. It's like a former Syracuse college basketball player. I don't know exactly what a drug mule means in the sense, like, does he still have a huge drug operation going on? He wouldn't seem to need that. He's got Ciroc. That was a huge drug operation. But then there's the stuff about Tupac and the links and blowing up Kid Cudi's car. There's a lot of shit out there about Puff. The Diddy story is so big. My parents, who know zero about pop culture events, hit me up about it. Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I mean, Diddy's a big star. He's one of the icons of pop culture of this generation. He's not like some rando caught up in this mess. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. But yeah, usually I don't think the feds come knocking the way that they have in this case, and it just goes away. I don't think generally that's the way it works. Diddy's in some deep, But I'm not going to just speculate on anybody who's been in his orbit at any time. Like I said on yesterday's show, if Jay or anybody else is guilty of anything bad, they should suffer the consequences and be held accountable for their actions. Everybody should be held accountable for their actions, whether I like them or don't like them. But people constantly are rooting for people to be caught up in stuff, not so justice is served, but so that their agenda can be served without any actual proof. And it's weird because that means you don't want fewer victims. You don't want fewer perpetrators. You want more perpetrators and more victims, just so that your pop culture conspiracy fantasies can be proven correct. That's strange. If you're thinking like that, take a deep breath and process what I just said. Because there's no way that's healthy behavior. Just not. It's not healthy behavior. I don't know what else to say. about Diddy. What did Cat Williams say on the interview about Diddy? I don't remember exactly what Cat had said about Diddy. I know he said the Hollywood elites and all that, like, but yeah. Well, I mean, oh, his weird parties. Gotcha. Look, Diddy was always extra. I mean, you can go back. He was always extra. Was Diddy? Um, uh, I mean, even Suge all up in the videos. Like Diddy was always extra, and he was in a lot of confrontations and ran his mouth a lot of times. Um, and I don't think he was ever really respected as an artist the way some of these other guys are, because his biggest hits were like not really samples as much as jacks. Like he didn't sample some of those songs, he just like took them. There's a difference. Kanye is brilliant with the samples. RZA, brilliant with the samples. No ID, brilliant with so many guys. Q-Tip, brilliant with the samples. Chopping them up. I love sampling. I love sampling as an art form. But, remember the old Vanilla Ice thing? We didn't take the Queen song. There's just like ding, 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 ding. Mine is like ding, 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 ding. It's the exact same thing. Diddy did a lot of that. And then, as more and more of these things come out, it's a little easier for him to be the fall guy for some, because as big as he was in pop culture, I don't know how beloved he was. He was respected as a businessman and as a pioneer and the guy who launched Biggie's career, but I don't think he was ever beloved as an artist. You know what I mean? I don't think like this is like the kind of, like, there are certain people, if they went down like this, it would hurt. I don't think too many people are like hurting in that sense because they're losing Diddy's, as a hero. Are you a person who said, I mean, it depends. It depends. I mean, there are certain people who've done certain things. It's tough. I mean, I had a phase with Kanye where I didn't want to hear him. Still have times. I mean, I'm not playing Kanye's music as much as I did before. But there's a lot of artists you could do that. And then there's like the slippery slope of what's bad and what's not bad. But I don't think people love to spin R. Kelly anymore. Or, there's a lot of, I'm trying to think of, what some of these rock dudes have done. I mean, even some of the stuff that like Anthony Kiedis, I haven't read enough into that, but like there's allegations out, Steven Tyler out there about so many people that there's a slippery slope where what is the line? I think for me, it's just kind of like how I feel about it. So I haven't drawn a specific distinction where I say, I'm never listening to this person again because it was against my moral compass, versus it's just like, I don't feel like doing it anymore. And I'm not really rocking with it. But the good thing for me with Diddy is I don't really have to deal with that because I was never really spinning Diddy's stuff by himself. Like the Last Train to Paris thing was cool. There's songs he's on, like from a Young G's perspective, like that he's ad-libbing on. Obviously, he's ad-libbing on Biggie records and stuff like that. But like, even though I'm not spinning Diddy, so it doesn't really impact me in quite the same way that it may have otherwise. All right. It's about what I got to say about that, guys. Anything else? Get it in the comment section quickly, because I'm going to have to go pick up my daughter from a birthday party. Thank you guys again for being here for me, being a little bit of an outlet for me. Just even talking. I know I probably was a little vague on some of the stuff. I'll share more of it with you at a later date. But I did, just blow off some steam, I suppose, if you will. Playing basketball later tonight too, which always helps. Nothing better than a good run, good hoops run. That really that really makes a difference as well, doesn't it? You know, I like to ride bikes. I like to, you know, play basketball and breathe. Or as my buddy Vega would tell you, what is it? Ujjayi breath? It's like this. And then there's this other one. He'll comment later maybe if he sees that. But I like to do his breathing classes. I actually wake up every morning and do a little yoga routine, into a little breathing routine, and take the equivalent of 2 bottles of water to the head to go about the day and be ready to conquer what is in front of me. And it's been a time, whereas the Drake and Future, at one point they weren't feuding, and it was what a time to be alive. Appreciate you guys being here with me live. Robin Lundberg Show should be back tomorrow. I'll let you know if there's any change of plans. But the next time I'm back, it will be on this same here channel. Take it easy.